The sun was bright that day. The chairs were set in perfect rows. Soft music played in the background. Everyone smiled, phones in hand, waiting for the bride to walk down the aisle. Jasmine stood at the altar beside Caleb, her hands slightly shaking. She smiled through her nerves, looking up at the man she loved. Caleb gave her hand a gentle squeeze, whispering, "You're beautiful." The pastor cleared his throat and began the ceremony. The guests quieted. Jasmine could see her mother, her sister, and some old friends smiling at her. It felt like a dream. Then the pastor said the words everyone had been waiting for. "If anyone here has reason why these two should not be joined in holy matrimony, speak now or forever hold your peace." The silence that followed was heavy, just a few seconds, but enough to notice. Then slowly a voice cut through the stillness. "I do." Heads turned. A few people gasped. Jasmine's heart dropped. It was Margaret, Caleb's mother. She stood from her seat in the front row, wearing a tight gray dress and a cold expression. Her hands trembled, but her voice was sharp. "This girl is cursed," she said, looking straight at Jasmine. "She's not right for my son. She brings nothing but pain." The guests began to murmur. Someone's phone dropped with a loud thud. Jasmine froze. Her chest tightened. Her eyes searched Caleb's face, but he was staring at his mother, stunned. Margaret took a step forward. "Every man she's been with, look into her past if you think I'm lying. This wedding should not happen." Caleb stepped forward. "Mom, stop." But Margaret wouldn't stop. She destroyed one man's career. The other ended up in rehab. "And now you, Caleb? You're next." Jasmine's lips parted. No sound came out. She looked around, at the shocked guests, at her mother looking helpless, at Caleb caught between love and loyalty. And then, from the middle of the crowd, someone else stood. A woman in a long blue dress. No one recognized her. She looked straight at Margaret and said, loud and clear, "No, you're the curse. And it's time someone told the truth." Gasps. Silence. Everyone stared. Jasmine's heart pounded. The stranger walked slowly toward the aisle. Margaret's eyes widened. "You. What are you doing here?" The woman said nothing more. Not yet. But everything was about to change. 3 months before the wedding, Jasmine Owens sat alone at a quiet coffee shop in Atlanta. Her laptop was open, but she wasn't working. She just stared at the screen, lost in thought. Outside the window, people walked by with smiles on their faces, living their normal lives. But inside, Jasmine felt far from normal. She had just gotten off the phone with Caleb's mother, Margaret Ross. It was supposed to be a short call to discuss wedding plans. But like most conversations with Margaret, it ended with Jasmine feeling small, unwanted, and out of place. "You should think carefully about what you're doing," Margaret had said. "Marriage is forever, and not everyone is made for it." It wasn't the words, it was the way she said them. Cold, sharp, judging. Jasmine had heard it all before. She took a deep breath and closed her laptop. Her heart was heavy, and she didn't want to cry in public again. Jasmine was 29, a social worker who helped families going through tough times. She was kind, smart, and strong. She had worked hard her whole life, raised by a single mother who did everything to keep her safe and educated. Jasmine had seen pain up close, in the homes she visited, and in her own heart. Love hadn't come easy. She'd been engaged twice before. The first time, she was 23 and in love with a man named Tarek. He was charming, fun, and full of promises. But 6 months before their wedding, she caught him cheating with someone from his office. The second time, it was Eric. He was quiet, stable, a good listener. But 4 months into their engagement, he confessed he had a secret child and wasn't ready for marriage. He left without another word. Both breakups left scars, not just because of the heartbreak, but because people started to talk. Some whispered that Jasmine was unlucky in love. Others said she pushed good men away. She stayed single for a long time after that, until she met Caleb. He was different, gentle, steady, a trauma surgeon who volunteered at health camp. They met at a community outreach event, both helping families recover after a flood. Their connection was instant, but their love was slow. Caleb didn't rush her. He gave her time, space, and peace. With him, Jasmine felt safe, maybe for the first time. But then came his family. The Ross family was respected in Atlanta. Wealthy, polished, and tightly knit. Caleb's father had passed away when he was young, so Margaret took full control of raising her son. She expected the best from them, and from the women they chose. Margaret had smiled the first time she met Jasmine, but it was the kind of smile that didn't reach the eyes. Over time, that smile disappeared. Margaret began to question everything Jasmine did, her job, her past, her family. "She's been engaged twice already?" Margaret had once whispered to a family friend, loud enough for Jasmine to hear. "What does that say about her?" Caleb tried to protect Jasmine. He defended her, said he loved her and wanted a life with her. But the tension grew. Jasmine never wanted to come between a mother and her son. She didn't want to force Caleb to choose. But Margaret made it clear, she didn't think Jasmine belonged. What made it harder was how quiet Caleb became around his mother. He didn't argue with her. He didn't confront her the way Jasmine hoped he would. He just stayed silent, hoping things would fix themselves. But Jasmine knew better. She had seen what silence did to women, how it made them shrink, how it made them question their worth. Still, she loved Caleb, and he loved her. So they set the wedding date. The closer it got, the colder Margaret became. Jasmine's friends told her to be careful. Her mother, who had always been calm, finally said one night, "Baby, love isn't enough if it makes you feel small every day." But Jasmine believed in trying, in pushing forward, in giving love a chance to grow. She wanted this wedding, not for the dress or the party, but for the promise, for the quiet home she and Caleb could build, for the kind of peace she never saw growing up. What Jasmine didn't know, what she couldn't have guessed, was that Margaret had done this before. It was a rainy Tuesday evening when Jasmine got the message. She was at home, curled up on the couch, reading over the guest list again. Planning the wedding had become stressful, mostly because of Margaret. Jasmine tried to ignore it, to stay calm, but the tension was always there, sitting in the back of her mind like a warning she didn't want to hear. Her phone buzzed. A message from a name she didn't recognize, Lena M. The message said, "Hi. I know this is strange, but I need to speak to you. It's about Margaret Ross. Please. I promise I'm not crazy." Jasmine stared at the screen, confused. She hesitated, then replied politely, "Hi. Sorry, do I know you?" The next message came quickly. "You don't. But I knew someone very close to Caleb. His brother, Marcus. We were engaged. And Margaret ruined everything." Jasmine froze. She had only heard about Marcus a few times. Caleb didn't talk much about him, only saying he died in a car accident years ago. It always seemed like a painful topic, so Jasmine never pushed. Now, someone was telling her they were once engaged? Jasmine's hands shook a little as she typed. "Can we meet? I don't understand." They met the next day at a small bookstore cafe downtown. Lena was already waiting, her face calm but serious. She looked a little older than Jasmine, maybe early 30s, with tired eyes that held too many memories. "I'm sorry for messaging you out of the blue," Lena said. "But when I heard Caleb was getting married, I couldn't stay silent." Jasmine sat down slowly. "You were engaged to Marcus?" "Yes. For 2 years. He was the love of my life." Lena paused, looking away for a moment. Then she said quietly, "Margaret hated me from the start. She thought I wasn't good enough. Said I wasn't from the right kind of family, that I was a distraction. At first she was cold. Then she became cruel." Jasmine listened in silence as Lena shared her story. Margaret had spread lies about Lena to the Ross family, told Marcus that Lena was cheating, even paid a man to say he had been with her. Marcus didn't believe it at first, but the pressure grew. He started drinking again, after being sober for years. He lost focus at work. Margaret kept telling him, "I'm just trying to save you." One night, after another fight with his mother, Marcus drove off and never came back. His car hit a tree. He died instantly. "I blamed myself for a long time," Lena said, her voice cracking. "But now I know better. That woman, she doesn't want her sons to be happy. She wants to control them. She breaks the women they love. She almost broke me." Jasmine felt cold all over. Her hands were clenched in her lap. "I thought it was just me," Lena continued. "But then I heard how she's been treating you. The same pattern. It never stops." Jasmine sat back, breathing slowly, trying to take it all in. Could this really be true? Could Margaret have done all that? Was she repeating it with Caleb? "She's not just mean, Jasmine. She's dangerous," Lena said. "And if you marry into that family without knowing the truth, you'll be next." That night, Jasmine couldn't sleep. She lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment she had ever spent with Margaret. The looks, the little comments, the way Caleb would go quiet whenever his mother was around. Jasmine knew she had to tell Caleb. But how? The next day, she sat him down at her apartment. "There's something you need to know," she said. When she told him about Lena, Caleb looked shocked, then angry. "That's not possible," he said. "My mom would never." Marcus was dealing with his own problem. "I know this is hard to hear, but I think she pushed him," Jasmine said. "And now she's doing the same thing to us." Caleb stood up, pacing the room. "She just wants what's best for me." Jasmine looked at him. "Is that what you believe?" He didn't answer. Something had changed between them. The truth was out now. There was no going back. Jasmine felt it in her chest, the shift, the silence after a storm. Now she had to decide, stay quiet and hope things got better, or stand up, no matter what it cost. In the days after Jasmine told Caleb about Lena and Marcus, everything felt different. Caleb had changed. He wasn't the calm, gentle man she had fallen in love with. Now he seemed lost, distracted, angry. Sometimes he would answer her questions with one-word replies. Other times he wouldn't answer at all. Jasmine tried to be patient. She gave him space, hoping he was just processing everything. But deep down, she could feel it. Something was breaking between them. One night, she called him just to talk. "Can we meet? I feel like we're not okay." Caleb sighed on the phone. I'm tired, Jazz. Maybe tomorrow. But tomorrow came, and he still didn't show up. Instead, Jasmine got a call from Caleb's younger brother, Devin. They had always gotten along. He was more relaxed, more open than Caleb or Margaret. Can I come over? Devin asked. When he arrived, his face was serious. He sat down on her couch and said quietly, I heard what happened. About Lena. Jasmine nodded. It's true. I met her. I believe her. Devin looked away, shaking his head slowly. I always knew something was off after Marcus died. He wasn't the same those last few months. But my mom, she made us all believe it was his fault. Like he was weak. Jasmine stared at him. So you believe me? Devin gave a sad smile. I believe Lena. And I believe you. Jasmine felt a wave of relief. But it was short-lived. Devin hesitated, then pulled out his phone. You need to see this. He played a voice message, a recording. It was Margaret, speaking to someone over the phone. She's smart, but not smart enough. Jasmine wants to play strong, but she doesn't know who she's dealing with. I'll protect Caleb from her the same way I protected Marcus. Jasmine covered her mouth, shocked. She said that last week, Devin said. To a friend of hers. I had someone record it. I had to know the truth. Tears filled Jasmine's eyes. The words hit deep. Not just the cruelty, but the fact that Margaret had admitted it. She had done it before. And now, she was planning to do it again. The next day, Jasmine met Caleb. They sat in her car outside his apartment, rain tapping on the windows. I have proof now, she told him, her voice shaking. Devin recorded her. She said she protected Marcus from Lena. That she's going to protect you from. Caleb looked tired. His eyes were red like he hadn't slept. I don't know what to believe anymore, he said softly. You said you loved me, Jasmine whispered. That you'd protect me too. What happened to that? He looked at her, but didn't answer. And in that silence, Jasmine felt something close. A wall between them. That weekend, Caleb's family held a dinner, a wedding prep meeting. Jasmine didn't want to go, but Caleb asked her to come. He said, maybe it'll help clear the air. She wore a simple blue dress and kept her hair back. As soon as she walked into the house, she could feel the cold. Margaret didn't smile, didn't greet her. She just poured tea like Jasmine was invisible. The rest of the family sat quietly, unsure of what to say. Only Devin gave her a small nod. They talked about wedding seating, the cake, the guest list. And then Margaret said loud and clear, I think we should delay the wedding. Everyone froze. Caleb looked up. What? Margaret shrugged. It's clear there's tension. I don't think rushing is wise. Jasmine held her breath. She wanted Caleb to speak up, to say no, to defend her. But he didn't. Margaret kept going. There are questions about the past. About loyalty, history. We should be sure before moving forward. Jasmine stood up. I'm sure. I've always been sure. It's you who's not. The room went silent. Margaret stood slowly, her face calm but her eyes sharp. I just want what's best for my son, she said. Not a woman with 2 broken engagements and a troubled past. That was it. Jasmine stepped forward. You broke your other son. You controlled him, tore his relationship apart, and now he's gone. Don't talk about what's best. You want control. That's all. Margaret's voice rose. Get out of my house. Jasmine turned to Caleb. Are you going to say anything? He stood up slowly, staring at the ground. Maybe we should delay the wedding. Jasmine's heart dropped. He didn't look at her. He just stood there like a stranger. She nodded slowly, holding back tears. Okay, I hear you. She walked out. Outside, the air was cold, the sky gray. Devin followed her out, his voice low. I'm sorry. I didn't think he'd fold like that. Jasmine wiped her face. He didn't fold. He chose her. After that night, she didn't hear from Caleb for days. No messages. No calls. The man she thought would fight for her had gone quiet. Then came the whispering. Friends started asking questions. Did something happen at the dinner? Why is Caleb staying at his mom's place now? And then Jasmine got a phone call from an old friend who worked at the hospital with Caleb. Just thought you should know. Margaret's been telling people the wedding is on hold because you've been unstable. That you showed up crying, yelling, trying to ruin the family dinner. Jasmine sat on her bed in shock. It wasn't just emotional now. Margaret was destroying her name. Everything was slipping. The wedding. Caleb. Her peace. But something else was rising in Jasmine. Something stronger than sadness. Anger. She had done everything right. She had loved with her whole heart. She had stayed quiet, tried to keep the peace. Now she was done being quiet. Margaret had drawn the line. Jasmine was about to step over it. The church was packed. Sunlight poured in through the tall windows. Guests were seated, waiting quietly. The air smelled of roses and nervous expectation. Jasmine stood at the back, dressed in white, her hands gripping her bouquet so tightly her fingers were shaking. She hadn't slept much. After everything that happened, she wasn't even sure she'd go through with the wedding. But here she was. Not for Caleb. Not for Margaret. For herself. The music began. Soft piano chords filled the church. The doors opened. Jasmine stepped forward, her heart pounding. She walked slowly down the aisle, her mother by her side. People turned to look. Some smiled, some whispered. But Jasmine kept walking. At the altar, Caleb stood tall, dressed in a dark blue suit. His eyes met hers for a moment. There was no warmth, no joy, just blank. Margaret sat in the front row, her hands folded, eyes locked on Jasmine like a judge waiting to pass sentence. Jasmine reached the altar. Her mother kissed her cheek and stepped aside. The pastor began. His voice echoed gently in the quiet room. "We are gathered here today to witness the union of Caleb Ross and Jasmine Owens." As he spoke, Jasmine could feel the tension rise in her chest. Each word felt heavier. Her breath felt shorter. And then the pastor turned to Margaret. "As is tradition, we invite the mother of the groom to speak, should she wish to offer her blessing." Margaret stood slowly. The room was silent. She stepped up to the mic. She looked at Jasmine, then at the guests. "I don't have a blessing to give," Margaret said calmly. "I have a warning." The room gasped. Caleb looked stunned. Jasmine didn't move. Margaret continued. "This girl, Jasmine, is cursed. 2 broken engagements. A broken family. She walks with trouble following her. And if my son marries her, he's bringing that curse into his life." More gasps. Murmurs. The pastor tried to interrupt, but Margaret kept going. "I tried to stay quiet, but I won't sit back and let my son destroy his future. Not like Marcus did. I will not bury another child because of the wrong woman." Jasmine's heart stopped. That was it. The truth. Out loud. In public. And then a voice rose from the crowd. "That's enough." A man stood up near the middle pews. He was tall, early 40s, with deep eyes and a calm face. People turned to look. "Who are you?" Margaret snapped. "My name is Jonathan Pierce," he said clearly. "I'm Marcus's best friend, and I've kept quiet for too long." Jasmine blinked. She didn't know this man. Jonathan stepped forward. "I was there the night Marcus died. He came to my place, drunk, broken, crying. He said, 'She won't stop. My own mother. She's ruining everything. She says she's protecting me, but I feel like I'm dying.'" Margaret's face went pale. Jonathan's voice grew louder. "You didn't protect him. You destroyed him. And now, you're doing the same thing to Caleb." Everyone was silent. Jasmine looked at Caleb. Tears were forming in his eyes. Margaret shook her head. "That's a lie. He had problems. I tried to help." "You controlled him," Jonathan said. "You lied to him. You pushed Lena away and convinced Marcus he wasn't strong enough to love someone. That guilt killed him." The whole room was still. Even the air felt frozen. Caleb stepped forward, his face torn. "Mom," he said softly. Margaret turned to him. "You know I only wanted what's best." He shook his head. "No, you wanted control." Silence. He turned to Jasmine. "I should have protected you. I didn't. I let her do to us what she did to Marcus. I'm sorry." Jasmine looked at him, her eyes filled with tears. "I don't want to marry someone who won't stand beside me," she said quietly. "You let her humiliate me, lie about me, and you said nothing." Caleb's eyes dropped. The pastor stepped forward. "Do you wish to continue with the vows?" Jasmine took a breath. "No," she said. Her voice was steady now. "I'm not going to marry into a war. I want love, not survival." She turned, walked slowly back down the aisle, her head high. Some guests stood. Some just watched. Outside, the sky was clear and blue. Devin ran after her. "Jasmine, wait." She stopped. "I'm proud of you," he said. "I wanted you to leave. You don't deserve any of this." She gave him a small smile. Neither did Marcus. Then she walked to her car, alone but free. Behind her, inside that perfect church, Margaret's mask had finally cracked. And Caleb, he was left standing in silence, watching the one woman who truly loved him walk away. A week after the wedding that never happened, Jasmine sat on the balcony of her apartment, sipping tea. The world felt quieter now, but not empty. It felt like peace, the kind that only comes after a storm. She hadn't cried since the day she walked out of the church. Not because she wasn't hurt, but because she had no regrets. She had stood up for herself in front of everyone. She had spoken her truth, and that changed something inside her. The news had spread quickly. Videos from the wedding went viral online. Margaret calling her cursed, the stranger, Jonathan, revealing the truth about Marcus, and Jasmine's powerful walk down the aisle alone. People online called her brave. Some said she was dramatic, but Jasmine didn't care. For once, she wasn't living for other people's approval. She was living for herself. Devin checked in on her every other day. He brought food, flowers, sometimes just sat quietly beside her. "You did something Marcus couldn't," he said one after. "You got out." Caleb hadn't reached out. Not a call. Not a message. But Jasmine knew why. He wasn't ready to face what he had let happen. Maybe he never would be. She had loved him. Deeply. But now she understood. Love without protection, without loyalty, wasn't love at all. It was fear disguised as hope. One morning, Jasmine walked into the hospital where she used to volunteer. She sat down with the director. "I'd like to come back," she said. The director smiled. We've been waiting for you. Helping others gave Jasmine something she'd lost during her time with Caleb. Purpose. Real purpose. The kind that fills you instead of drains you. She started working with young women going through heartbreak, depression, and emotional abuse. She shared her story at local workshops and even on a podcast. Each time she spoke, someone reached out to say, "That helped me." One day, Lena came to see her. They hugged for a long time. "I wish I had done what you did," Lena said. "Maybe Marcus would still be here." Jasmine held her hand. "We all do what we can with what we know. You survived. That's enough." Months passed. Jasmine got stronger, not just emotionally, but in how she walked, spoke, and showed up for herself. Her voice didn't shake anymore. Margaret's influence started to fade. Caleb moved to another city for work, and the Ross family name wasn't as powerful as it once was. People now whispered different things. They questioned what happened to Marcus, and they saw Margaret not as a strong mother, but as a woman who hid behind control because she feared being unloved. Jasmine didn't celebrate her downfall. She didn't need revenge. Justice had already been served in the most powerful way. The truth came out. And Jasmine had walked away with her dignity, her peace, and her future still intact. One evening, while watching the sunset, Jasmine smiled softly to herself. "I didn't lose anything," she whispered. "I found everything." She wasn't someone's bride. She wasn't someone's daughter-in-law. She was herself again. And that was more than enough. A year later, Jasmine stood on a small stage in a quiet hall. The room was full of women, young, older, some with tears in their eyes, some holding notebooks, all of them listening closely. Jasmine had just finished telling her story. She looked around, her voice calm but full of strength. Sometimes, the people we love the most are the ones who hurt us the deepest. But healing doesn't come from fixing them. It comes from choosing yourself, even when it breaks your heart. The room was silent. Then slowly, applause filled the space. Afterward, a teenage girl came up to her and said, "You made me feel seen." "Thank you." Jasmine smiled and hugged her. "You're not alone. You never were." As the hall emptied, Jasmine stepped outside into the cool evening air. She took a deep breath, looked up at the stars, and felt a quiet joy in her chest. She wasn't where she thought she'd be a year ago. She wasn't a wife. She wasn't living in a big house or planning a future with Caleb. But she was something better. Free. Whole. Brave. She pulled her coat tighter and walked down the street, her steps steady, her heart light. Not every love story ends in marriage. Some end in freedom. And sometimes that's the happiest ending of all. Hey besties. Thanks so much for watching till the end. If you loved this emotional roller coaster, don't forget to like, share, drop a comment, and subscribe for more drama-packed stories. Up next, her friends invited everyone except her to their girls' trip, so she booked one seat beside. You won't believe what happens next. See you there. And remember, always choose yourself. Bye.